I am going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And for roll call, it looks like we are all present. Good job. Way to go, team. Yeah. In person first time. Okay. Do we have any guest business? We have a guest. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Did you have anything you would like to share with us?
I'm right in front of you.
Do you have anything?
Saying hello, so,
Do you have anything you'd like to share with us? Do you want to present to us?
right now?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sure. My name is Ellie Brubaker.
Can you come on up to the,
I can,
My name is Ellie Brubaker, and my reason for attending today is I wanted an update on the Sunset Beach project. I live right next door to it, and my main thing was I had put in a rendering of drawings package back in August. And it was to go to the architect and then for review, at least so that people could see what I had to offer in my thoughts. And I haven't heard a word back. So I was a little concerned with that. I've been on many boards here in Lake Stevens over 40 years. Been involved in all the community events. So I kind of know how that goes. And one of the things is you get back with your people that are questioning something, and I didn't get that. So I'm a little disappointed. So I don't know if any of you saw them or not. And if you did, I'd like to know your comments on them.
Ellie, we did get your comments. We did send them to our consultants and we did forward them to the park board as well. And we went through the different items that you had presented, and I'm happy to circle back with you and get you the information from the consultant's office and also from the discussion through the park board. I don't have it on me right now, but I would be happy to follow up with you.
Okay, so you have some that you can get to me then?
Yes.
Okay, well, I brought 3 packages just in case somebody didn't get to have a look at it, but that's fine. I appreciate that. And I'll turn it back to you. That was my only concern. I see you're working on lots of other parks, so that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
make a motion to approve the minutes.
All those in favor? Aye. Right. So on to our discussion items. The first thing we're going to discuss is the application for recreation programs and classes, and Jessica is going to give us that discussion.
Hello, good evening. I'm Jessica Romero. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the recreation specialist for the Parks Department. I'm hired on in August and I've been really having fun going through looking at possibilities and events and recreation programming for the city. And so this came as kind of a perfect time to review how we've done RFPs in the past. So each year the park board has provided feedback to community members who have proposed RFPs to the city. And this year we reviewed it as a staff and kind of found that it didn't provide the flexibility there was a short window of 30 days where people could provide these RFPs. So we wanted to open up to year-round being able to propose new ideas and things. And so that's where you'll see in the packet on page 5 and 6, we created the opportunity for community classes, kind of an application process with a 60-day lead time. And it kind of goes through how to submit a proposal. And we thought it would be really great to provide kind of a template to get information. Maybe someone's never submitted a proposal and didn't know what to put in there. And so this is kind of a guideline to help them and help us really capture the information of the program that they want to provide with us. And so we work to refine the process. And we think it'll create a lot of efficiencies for us as a team to review what people are bringing in and give advice on how to best move forward with their programs. And so if you look through the application, just kind of, there's very clear steps on how to go through the application and provide the information, what kind of programs. So you'll see check boxes down at the bottom on page 7, with the type of programming that they'd like to bring to the city. And on the first one, it kind of goes through some of our parks and facilities that we have available to do the programs, capturing things like their program hours and the facilities they'd be requesting, any equipment needs, how many participants they'd like to have in their programs. It goes over all the insurance requirements and things, so it's all kind of nicely packaged for them. Instead of just saying, hey, come to us and submit a proposal, this kind of gives them that template. And so we hope to be rolling this out soon, and for anybody that inquires, they will be able to fill out this application and submit it to the Parks Department for review. Anybody have any questions on kind of how we've revised process?
I have a question.
Sure.
Turn your,
This is the first time that we've met you.
Yeah.
Can you give us any background of what, I mean, Austin, you know, because we never really heard that you were actually hired or your name.
No problem. So yeah, I was hired in August as the first recreation specialist for the new recreation department. And so my background, I worked for the city of Seattle for 10 years as an assistant recreation coordinator and a recreation specialist for citywide programs. Specializing in developmental disabilities, I worked a lot in our specialized programs unit and really doing some of our bigger events like our big day of play and putting on big citywide programs at all 29 of our.
Was that all of Seattle or just certain spots of it or?
All of Seattle, yeah, from north to south. I worked from Meadowbrook Community Center all the way
Lot of
north
territory.
to Rainier Beach. I helped open the new pool and facility aquatic center there in 2013 when that opened. I also have background. I was at Children's Hospital for 3 years working in their autism program, adapting therapeutic recreation programming for the autism community, youth and adults. And so, and then worked for North Shore School District, helping students recreate and helping with family support, education and recreation through the school district. And so moved out up this way and didn't want to do that commute anymore to Seattle. So I was really, really happy to see Lake Stevens starting a recreation department. It's like, oh, it's in my community and how can I help this grow and be a fabulous community? And so, yeah.
It's a little bit late, but welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so nice to meet you. I know a few of you from other organizations, but yeah, really happy to be here.
and thank you for your presentation. I think Marie has a question or comment.
Just 2 questions on the form itself.
Yeah.
Just curious, I know there aren't a lot of maybe sporting facilities in Lake Stevens right now, but just curious on the concept of suggested offerings could include and the opportunity to have like a more sporting approach on that, or if that was deliberate, you know. So in terms of, because it says fitness classes, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But you know, there's basketball hoops, there could be a 3-on-3 basketball or something of that nature. So I don't know if
Yeah, we
it
could
just
certainly add more
the
boxes. We have the
scope.
other box, attach other things that
Yeah.
we'd like to bring in, you know, we're trying to capture that.
Are you thinking, Marie, up here?
up here in the top, this is
In
the
the,
top application where it lists cooking courses.
The heading
on it.
for the
Yeah.
application.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, either one, but
So I believe our intent with the suggestions on the written portion was to hit stuff that we don't already have.
okay.
Trying to attract that new stuff, but then when you go to the boxes here
I
on
see
the
it
actual
now.
application, it
Okay.
has the category of sports fitness.
Right on. And then my other question was just because I see a lot of parents looking for teen activities in this area. Is, you know, youth, it says it 0 through 17, but I don't know if there's some intentionality possibly to deliberately encourage some team activities.
Yeah, we were
Just a potential to break it up or combine it.
yeah, for like that 13 or 12. to
Yeah, that group is
17.
looking for things to do right now.
Yeah, yeah. When I met with the Boys and Girls Club, that was like the number one thing. Find things for our teams. You know, we provided the ping pong stuff out here and the cornhole bags and things like that to provide them places to play other than the little kid playground.
Yeah.
So that's been working. I've been seeing a lot of teams using that area, but yeah, we definitely do know that that is a huge need in the community and for programs. And hopefully working with the school district to use some of their space for summer programs or after school programs for that age group. Would be a good place to start.
That's what I was gonna ask, if the school facilities were available for these.
Yeah, so we've met with them and kind of reviewed all of their partnership, abilities and our ability to use the elementaries or the middle schools and things like that. And it definitely, they do have availability for us to be able to provide programming there. So we'd love to.
There were some teens playing on the ping pong table just now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, it's been really fun. I work on Saturdays, so I've been able to see a lot of community members out there with their families and stuff enjoying. And I'm sure as the weather gets nicer, we're gonna see a lot more families and those resources.
I have a question for you, Jessica.
Yeah.
So we used to do this once a year, is that right? Send it out once a year.
From like January 15th.
Yeah, and so now we're wanting to kind of keep it open. How are we going to promote or market that we are looking for? Are we doing that on a quarterly basis or something?
I think it would be a great idea because we used to post them on our website and our, media forums to have this up on the website. So looking to, host a class or run a recreation program, please fill out this application, so there's a place where this will live on the website for people to go to. And then, anytime you hear word of someone wanting to start up a program, here's the actual process on how to do it. And we have something to actually give out. So if you guys have more suggestions on how.
I was just thinking, to ping the community to say, hey, do you have something?
Yeah, is that Jill, what we used to do with our, post it and.
We would do, yeah, we would send it out on our website, on social media, we would put it in our week's wrap up. We would get it out to the many channels, and then obviously people that have participated in our RFP process in the past. Just kind of do a media blast while it was open. And
Well, I think this, thank you. I think this is wonderful. Yeah.
Another thing I know that we've talked about is Jessica's done a fabulous job making lists of what the community already has opportunity wide. So who is
Oh.
putting on those classes, where they are, so that we can fill the gap with how to fill that missing recreation piece. One of the great ideas is the communities around us have community guides. They're actively advertising these types of classes. One thing we had talked about was being able to reach out to the instructors already putting on classes in the nearby communities and saying, hey, we'd love you to propose having this in our community. So then we can get the application directly to people that we know are putting on those services already.
Yeah.
Is
Rod-
this, I'm sorry.
Roger?
I was just gonna say, are you prioritizing what you would like to see? I mean, from different things that come in, are you saying, well, I'd like to see more of this than this, or is it just? How do you look at that?
I don't know if I really have a priority yet because we don't have a lot of classes or programs going. So right now I'm pretty open to anything that, anybody that has the staffing or ability to run these programs since we're such a small team. But I think as we, trying to offer things that aren't already offered right down the street or things like that would have more of a priority, or that, maybe provide some cultural elements and things like that to bring that more into the area would be, what I'd be looking at approving. But right now we don't have a lot of applications in. So right now you submit your application, you have a very good chance getting a program started with us.
And I know Jill has prior survey data, and surveys are always something we can push out in the future to make sure we get what people want currently.
yeah, we know the general preferences of what, people want to see moving forward. And then also I will say, last year, once we received all of the submittals, we would go through them, and I believe all of them were classes or programs that we held in the city after we took a look at it. I suppose if we started to get a lot of duplicates of the exact same offering, you know, we would have a process to help that, but at this point, we haven't had to do that.
Nice. Brian,
I
do you
think my
have?
question got answered.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, because I know we used to do like hip hop, it was prior to COVID, it was quite a bit of stuff, and then everything shut down. I was just wondering if, it sounded like last year we actually did this too, so this isn't new since COVID, right?
Right, Jessica's process is an improved process, so I would say we have done this, but it's a better process now. And there's more flexibility for throughout the year. Because we had just that one open window, and you had to have all your, you know, you submit by that time. And this is more good information. It's a more refined process.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think that hopefully we'll see the fruits of that, and we'll get more applications.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right. We're on to Sarah, but before Sarah goes, Sarah had made she made a most wonderful presentation to the community about some closures that she has to do of some playgrounds. And I want to go on record to say I was so impressed, and just so eloquent and what's the word? Intelligent, and it was just such a good briefing. I learned a lot.
Thank you. I'm glad you attended.
Mhm.
That's great.
I'll second that because we got a lot of emails thanking her for her presentation in our parks email.
It is not an ideal thing to shut down playgrounds ever. But especially as we're kind of just going through them all for the first time and inspecting them. So I think it was received as best as it could be, considering, and we're really pushing the surveys hard. They're open until next Friday. So that is something that every single citizen needs to take, the general citywide playground survey. And then if you live by one of the playgrounds that was shut down, you also need to take the one for your community. Of course, anyone in the community can take the smaller specific ones. I would say if you have an interest in it, right? If you visited it with your family or you're going to.
Sarah. Go ahead. You're still on.
Flow a little bit here. Thank you so much. Yes.
I was just gonna say that I'm kind of confused with that Oak park, the one on Oak that supposedly was built for this, you know, neighborhood, and they were gonna put a park in, and, you know, it's brand new and they're already shutting it down.
Well, Sarah's going to explain all
Okay.
of this.
All right.
If I can figure out which way I'm scrolling, I'm going to take you through a whole presentation. All right, awesome. So, got it. So I'm going to do a brief presentation because I don't want to take up too much time. I want to make sure that we all get out of here at the end of the night. Everybody who is watching the Parks Board meeting tonight, and everybody that's here, all of these are on YouTube. They're recorded. So if you have an interest in going back and watching the playground meeting, it's on YouTube. You can do that. You can fast forward. It did lose audio about halfway through. Once we realized that and had it fixed, I backtracked and went through those slides. So when the audio reignites, you don't miss anything. And then that includes all the public comments at the end, which we are condensing. We're waiting for the surveys to close so we can have all public comments, go through survey data, and really move forward from there. So this is the presentation from the playground meeting. I explained to everybody that the Parks and Recreation Department was just created in August 2022. Before that, it was maintained by Public Works, who did operations and maintenance, and by Community Development and Planning, who did all of the administrative side of things, including recreation. Currently, we have 10 staff, and this is the breakdown of staff with 1 director, 3 in your administration, recreation, 6 with operations and maintenance, and support from other departments such as our wonderful minute taker here tonight. Thank you for clicking for us. We have 28 total parks. When you go through the list of everything that is city property, doesn't mean that we manage all of them. It says specifically here, things are co-managed. There's places that we don't own, but that we manage, and that we own and other people manage. But 28 are the number that we're reasonably responsible for to a larger degree. In addition to, of course, the mill and trails and other items. Going into parks and playgrounds, I just like to touch on the importance of them. What are the importance of parks and the benefits of playgrounds? Well, parks build community. They really have a great impact on the social interactions that residents as well as visitors have with each other. It's the one place where it doesn't matter what your economic status from or where you're from or what you're going through in life. We're all equal once we enter a park. And so it really has a great way to bring the community together. Additionally, it has great health and environmental benefits. Parks are proven to reduce blood pressure, lower stress, reduce depression. There's great economic value. When you go to a park, you're usually stopping somewhere, maybe buying something on the way. They also attract business. They attract new residents. People want to live by great parks. And then the overall quality of life, which can just go on and on with the list. I think we all know we love parks. That's why we're here. Benefits of playground. They're huge, especially to the young children. They're teaching children how to develop socially, how to make friends, how to talk to each other, how to develop emotionally, which is extremely important as you become an adult, and their physical growth as well. It goes down to dexterity of your fine motor skills. It's teaching you balance, how to fall safely, just on and on with why playgrounds are important, why kids need to play and interact with each other. What are public playgrounds? Well, I can tell you they're very different from private playgrounds. Private playgrounds are things you can put in the back of your house. They are things that can be installed on private property. They can be installed at churches or other locations where they're not open all the time for everybody to just come and go freely. Playgrounds at schools are also considered public playgrounds because especially after hours, they can be used and there's huge population. So we have different restrictions. Public playgrounds are very highly regulated, especially from the aspect of safety. There's three main things that we have to pay attention to when we have public safety or public playgrounds. One is the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. The other is American Society Testing and Materials International. So one is US, one is international. We'll refer to these as CPSC and ASTM standards as we go through technical terms. You'll hear those come up all the time with playgrounds. Probably not tonight, but if you ever dive into technical stuff. The third thing is ADA, accessibility. That's federal law as well. You cannot take that as optional. They have to be integrated into public playgrounds. Why? Well, it's really to keep children safe. When I inspect playgrounds and everything you're taught in when you become a certified playground safety inspector is to prevent deaths and prevent serious debilitating injuries. We want people to play. It's okay if you get hurt. We just don't want it to go to the hospital. And if you do, we want you to come out of the hospital. So those are some of the most important things and often are the deciding factors on whether you do or do not shut down playgrounds immediately. And accessibility, of course. So inspections and repairs. We have 3 staff right now who are certified playground safety inspectors with the 4th one taking their exam. The exam must be taken every 3 years. When you take an exam and become certified, it states that you know all of the safety information that I just went over in the last slide, and that you can show up on site and provide inspections to ensure they're safe for the public. That's what that specific certification is for. We have 1 playground maintenance technician on staff. That's just a course that anybody can go to. There's no test at the end, but it provides you information on how to actually maintain the playgrounds. It's a little bit more about fixing them and teaches you some brief information about law and some brief stuff that is also taught in the CPSI. Inspection types, audits, they're usually done when you install a playground, but can also be done in order to say, does it meet all of the standards that are out there? We have low frequency inspections, which happen not as often through the year, usually once a year. They're very in-depth. And then we have high frequency inspections that happen all the time. So depending on how frequently your playground gets used, that could be every 2 weeks, that could be every month, or it could be every 3 months. And that's where we're going through and looking for wear and tear, items that need to be replaced, bolts and nuts that need to be tightened, ensure that playgrounds are safe. Going into the next slide, we're talking about the 5 playgrounds that were shut down. We have 13 total that we inspected on city property. Many of these were built for HOAs, and the properties on a lot of those are still maintained by HOAs as far as landscaping goes. We're really untangling the web from there of how were the playgrounds supposed to be managed and maintained. There were no written agreements. And so a lot of that history is great, but we have a lot of conversations moving forward with council, especially comes down to a lot of budget, staff time, and what services are we providing for the public as a Parks and Recreation Department. So this one was Mandolin Court. This was a larger playground. It actually had other pieces that were removed, a drinking fountain that were removed, and a fence that were removed. I didn't get the year, but I'm guessing from the staff conversation about 5-6 years ago, somewhere in there. This is what remained. This was just closed by us, and these pieces were successfully removed last week. So there were just the 2 spring rockers in between 2 houses at the end of the cul-de-sac. Then we have the Summer Hills Estates location. It's just the single tube on top of a sloped hill. I did meet with this HOA already. They requested a meeting and we spoke. We'll wait for those survey results to come back for the future of this location. That one was also removed. Then we go into Oak Hill. So this one is the most confusing one. This was most recently built. I'm saying around 2020 might have been the completed date. We're untangling the web with this, and we're working with all involved parties on the back end. We'll have more updates down the line. What I can tell you is that this playground did not follow all of the standards and safety guidelines that I announced previously. It does not meet ADA, which is federal law. It does not meet other regulations set up in ASTM standards. It has a lot to do with the measurements. It has a lot to do with the configuration of it. It also has to do with how it was installed. When we go up and shake it apart from how it was designed, it did move when we were there. You can't have playgrounds that move. And so that is why that main structure has to be down. It would take ample amount of reconfiguring this thing in order to get it up to standards. And then we're missing with engineering. It's not worth the time and the money, unfortunately, with the amount of modifications that would need to be made. So this would go great at a private HOA location. This would be great in your backyard. It just can't be in a public park. Then on the swing set, a lot of people are very confused with why the swing set. They did correctly put the bucket seat in a separate bay from the belt seats. You always have to have those separate. So that works on this. But one thing you'll notice when you look really carefully at the top is it is a solid rectangular bar. When you have a play surface that is more than 2 by 2 inches, any surface that is more than 2 by 2 inches on a playground, it does constitute what we call a play surface. Once you have a play surface, you now have to apply all of the rules. So what does that mean? Well, the beams on top is closer to 4 inches and could very easily be used as a balance beam if my friend wanted to help me get on top of it. That is really dangerous for the swings and the activity that could be occurring beneath. And we also have some bolts sticking up on that top bar. You have to have that top piece curved more than 30 degrees in order to not be considered a play surface itself. And then with the way that the swings were constructed, the actual hangers of this swing go in instead of being straight or out. You have to have a measurement of a minimum of 20 inches at the very top between 2 swing hangers. And they can't be narrowing from the belt swing. They have to be at least as wide as that. So for us to even try to move those bolts and fix all the things I just mentioned, it's messing with a lot of engineering that we really should not be touching as far as liability goes. So that's the why on the swing set.
What I don't understand is, I agree with what you're saying, but as far as your inspection repair, the first inspection type is audit, so that should have happened right when it was built. right? And it must not have, because if you went back again and it's totally, not up to par, I mean, what happened? Is it the city just messed up, or I don't know what to say.
There were a lot of different different companies that were involved to the point of getting this thing installed. This city can't talk detail about that here, but we are working on things in the background to try to untangle that. What I can say is we didn't have a parks department when this was installed. I do not believe that we had a certified playground safety inspector on our staff, and therefore the knowledge was not in-house. And I would doubt at this point that anybody hired a certified playground safety inspector to go and do an audit at the time it was installed. I can tell you that the company that installed it stated that they were able to install playgrounds, and they installed it incorrectly. It is even too close as a fall zone to the concrete around it. You have to have a minimum of 6 feet from the slide on all sides, as well as all play surfaces, and it doesn't meet that either. So there are a lot of things that we're entangling in the
I'm
background.
just curious
And we
because
just didn't know.
The-
It
well,
wasn't
someone should have
in-house.
known. I mean, if you're building it for a park that the city is, saying that this is gonna be a park in this community, someone should have known. And I mean, I agree with what you're saying, the safety thing, but it's just that they spend so much time talking about this park and and it's kind of like, did they push this park in there so they could build, some more houses or less? I don't know, but it's a brand new park, and I just, it just baffled me that, it's not stuff.
Well, I believe that through the negotiation process of allowing the housing development to be installed, that the city talked to them about making this a public park, and we entered into that before the park was built. So I agree, we can sit here all day and say somebody should have known, somebody should have done something, and we can all sit here wanting to blame either, city staff or contractors or engineers. But I 100% hear you. I think that what you said and how you're saying it duplicates the feeling of every single person that has seen this announcement out there. I hear it strongly. I understand it. And I can tell you we're looking into it as a city, and moving forward, we'll do better. One of the great questions that I had at the public meeting was, okay, you're saying you've learned your lesson. We're not going to do this anymore. What's your control? How are you going to do that? And I said, great question. How? Well, we're now an official department. We're going to have management and operation manuals and procedures and regulations, and they're going to be in writing so that eventually when I'm gone and it's a different parks director, they have something already in writing that the council signed off on that says, this is how you shall run your parks department. You must always have at least a minimum of 2 certified playground safety inspectors on staff. If not, send somebody to training right now. Those types of things are what's going to prevent this in the future.
Good.
Any other questions on Oak before we jump into the other ones?
Is the developer,
Sorry, I moved that.
will the developer be held accountable for the playground at all?
We do not know. We're looking into all of that at this time. Anyone else on Oak? All right, on to some easier ones, I promise. This one is the Reserve 2. The Reserve 2 is actually part of the Greenwood division. Some of our naming came from the field workers and how they drive to locations. We're also asking through the survey process, what do the neighbors call these locations? So we'll be working on all that stuff in the future. This one did have playground bark installed by our staff just a couple years ago. Whenever the community asked in the past for the city to do something, it was waited and decided on that time. This is one of those where we did go and pay for the bark to be installed. Although in the recent history, we have never done maintenance to this playground. This one's just wood. Wood gets old. Wood should only last 15 to 20 years as far as playgrounds go, because they're continually used. Things move, they rub. This is one that we can't order parts for anymore. We do have another playground from the same era that we are uninstalling. We'll be saving the pieces. Saving the pieces from the Reserve 2 when it's taken down. We have another playground that'll be staying up on the other side. That we can interchange pieces and try to help that one along a little bit longer. Greenwood Village 2 is on the other side of the reserve, so it looks similar to the last one, also wood. This one was closed temporarily, But I'm happy to say, two of staff spent nearly a whole day replacing every screw, nut and bolt that needed to be done, and it is now reopened and the safety fencing is removed.
Wow.
So they're really knocking these out as fast as they can. We have a 2-person team dedicated every day that we don't have to pull them onto something else going around to the playgrounds.
Nice.
So one of them is reopened. So public engagement, this is where we go into the surveys. For here, everybody here, I printed hard copies so that you can take the survey before you leave and give it back to me. That'll give me a good sample size of your feelings as a parks board. And then we'll go ahead, and if you haven't taken the online survey, we can upload those to join the general survey. Those are something separate I'll be handing out so that we can focus on the meeting, and then I'll hand those out to you. And then if you want to take any of the individual ones, you can do that online. And please share these with everybody that you know. Social media is not a big enough push for us to get the message out. The press release was not enough. The signs on site are not enough. We still have people every day finding out for the first time that their playground was closed or finding out that other ones were. Mainly that general city one is the one we want everyone to take, as that really helps us understand, do people want a lot of small playgrounds? Do they want fewer playgrounds that'll be big? What type of play are they looking for? Those are the types of questions we're asking. Those surveys are open until next Friday. Just to repeat, or sorry, no, we did Monday at 10 a.m. So we still have about a week and a half open on those ones.
So the parks that are closed down, if the people come back to you and say, we want to fix it up and stuff like that, will the city take it back as a park, or is it just going to stay in as a neighborhood park?
Those have to be determined. I don't have good answers now. Our main goal was to shut down playgrounds that were unsafe for children. And that's where we're at right now. We're still heavily into researching all of these plats. And so many of them, it's very clear at this time, were built with the community. The community retained all of the landscaping and maintenance for those parcels. Some of the conversations I've had with the public state, well, we were told never to touch the playgrounds. Other times we had community members that contacted the city, and the city said, that's not our property. We're not going to touch it. And so I think because things were not written down, it was really the availability of staff, the availability of funds, the knowledge. So we've had a big ebb and flow for how some of these were managed. There's also a really clear example of one of these locations that had a sign that said private playground. Well, the HOA decided to remove it. And so that is history that we don't have unless I can find photos or people telling me that stuff. So that should help understand how we got here, and a very clear, very unclear. It's not in writing who was in charge of what piece. So our goal in the end is to have written agreements on all of these. Who does the landscaping? Who does the trash? Who maintains that recreational piece? The best example we have on city land is the Constitution Park, which is the military division. They actually have a recreational easement over our land. An easement is the strongest form of agreement we can have. They essentially own everything above the dirt. And so when it comes to their playgrounds, I can't tell them what to do or what not to do. They're allowed to have fully private playgrounds, and they have the signage to say that as well. So if an HOA is like, hey, we want to maintain that, we want it to be our private park, that's probably the best route to go, is either an easement or an agreement that's pretty strong. If we just have loose agreements, like who does the maintenance, then it could be that the city's in charge of those recreational things. And I think that's going to come a lot from the survey data. What do your citizens want now? And then what is the future of our parks when we look at the big maps, our service areas, going back to that, and then what the council also desires and can support. Because for us to go from the original 12 playgrounds I was told that we have when I was hired versus where we're at now, that's a big difference when it comes to resources, staffing, and money. So I think we'll get to a place everybody's happy with. I just won't have the answers for a while. We're going to create those.
Are there any more questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you. And my phone is on. I've answered just about every voice message, unless I left one standing today, but every voice message, I've responded to every email, unless I literally skipped it and didn't realize that I did, but I go back through continually. I even searched for playgrounds and went through all those emails again just today. So feel free to email or call if you guys have questions too.
Too bad you weren't a parks guy 20, 30 years ago. You wouldn't have to worry about any of this.
Be retired. I wouldn't.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, Jill, for your parks update, please.
Thank you. So I thought I would bring back a couple of the questions that we had at our last meeting. And we'll get to that picture in just a second, but the request for proposals for the Cedarwood clubhouse was distributed. The closing date closed. We are going to be holding interviews next week for a potential partner for that site. So we'll have more to report after that. But you did request some photos of what the building looks like right now in its current state. So I included those in your parks update. The first picture, that's when we took a tour of the inside of it. That's one of our building inspectors that you can see in the picture. That's the main portion of Cedarwood. It has the skylight kind of roof there, and then it's the timber kind of single wall construction. You can see that in that picture. The second picture is one of the rooms, that's the storage room. So of the Cedarwood clubhouse, there's a large open area that was used. You can see the basketball hoop. It was used kind of as an indoor gymnasium. It doesn't meet the size of a basketball court, but that's what it was used for. And then adjacent to it are two rooms. One was used as a handball court, and the other one we think was probably just storage. And that's of the main building.
Go back to Cedarwood photo.
Oh, yeah, maybe in the, sorry, I had her share that because this was the next one that I thought I included in your packet and it didn't get in there, so I apologize. So, yeah. In that first picture, yeah. So the room that you see on the right, they're about, I think, 15 feet wide. And then the main building portion of it is around 4,000 square feet. It's pretty big. And then on the next one, these are the exterior shots. So what you're looking at would be about halfway up the interior wall in that first picture. It's a 2-story building, but there's no access at this level, at the ground level. You have to go around behind the building to enter. And then there's one doorway that leads to kind of the gymnasium. I guess there's 2 doors. And then there's one that leads to each of the storage compartments, or the secondary, the handball court. The picture right below that is the restroom facility.
Oh.
So under it, and that's kind of a center block, think state park type of restroom. They don't meet the code now. Your restrooms have to be in the same building. So we know that there's going to be significant changes to this site, but in answer to your questions of what does the building look like now, that's what the building looks like now. We pulled as many pieces of information we can from the county, and we've gleaned from fire inspection records. And what it was referred to in a lot of those documents was called a play shed. So, and that would be, and it's got one light in the main portion of it, and it's just that single wall construction. And most of it in that ground level picture, you can look into the building. So there's not a lot of substance of building in there, but remarkably, that skylight ceiling really hasn't leaked. So.
Jill, I have a question for you. So, you said there is a second floor?
Well, it's 2 stories tall.
It's 2 stories tall.
Correct.
That's what, okay, we don't have the second floor. Did we have engineering go out and look at that yet?
Yes, so we had a structural analysis done of the building, and but there's a lot to consider in the
Okay.
building itself because of the type of use that it could potentially be. Anytime you have children in the building for recreation purposes, it's the most restrictive of the occupancy codes. So then you're looking at full, alarms on doors and those types of things. When you're looking at this building, the amount of work that would be required to bring it into compliance may not pencil out than just rebuilding the building, especially because the restrooms have to, so we would be bringing in plumbing, electrical, all of the HVAC systems into this building when the roof might not quite be tall enough. So it's really at this point, you know, looking at all those. So the structural analysis came back that some of the timber, the lumber is good. There's some unknowns about the slab. So they x-rayed the slab they tried to detect the rebar, and their recommendation was kind of essentially, and I'll simplify it, there's obviously more to it, but you would basically be building a building inside of a building. So, you know, does that really meet the needs? And we'll know more once we secure a partner for the facility of if it meets our needs or not, and what their needs are, and what that partnership looks like moving forward. So there's still some moving parts on there, but I did want to at least let you know what the building looked like.
Thank you.
What about, you keep saying partnership, does that mean like with a Boys and Girls Club or YMCA or a private person or?
We did distribute an RFP for a partnership of an organization to run programming from the building.
And then my other question is the land around it, is there enough to make the building bigger, or is it basically just going to cover the parking?
So there's a couple answers to that. There on the back side of this building is gorgeous, but it's a stream. So we know the setback is what it is right now. We're not going to be able to go any closer to the stream. So then if you're going to come towards the parking lot, then you have to make sure that you're having enough parking for the facility's use, because we know that that's, you know, a necessity. So yes, in some areas, there is room for expansion. For instance, between the main building and the restrooms, there's probably at least 15 feet in between those two buildings. That can be filled in. And then the footprint could extend to the far side, you know, of each of those. So yes and no. There is some room for
They
expansion.
look kind of big.
Right. It is a good sized building, but then also when you're looking at meeting space and, you know, a building like this, then it kind of puts it into perspective as well. The advantages are on the back side of this building, for all intents and purposes, if you had windows like these that you were looking out, it's a beautiful setting. I mean, you feel like you're in a mountain retreat, you know, there's a babbling brook, you know, so there's a lot of really great things about this property. The location of the property is really good. It's in a neighborhood that has some overflow parking possibilities as well, as far as like on street parking. But it's really, I think it's a great asset. But you know, the future of it will be determined as we move along. Susan, I think you had a question.
What's the size of the property?
I don't have the acreage of the property. The size of the building is approximately 5,000 square feet, just the footprint of the main building.
I remember that, yeah.
And then I believe that I want to say 800 square feet for the restroom. I might not be right on that.
So the RFP that went out was for using the building in some capacity.
Correct. It
So
was
no
for a
one's looking at
partner.
scraping and building at this stage.
I'm sorry.
No one's looking at scraping it and rebuilding.
Well, it's all on the table. The organization that we would be looking at choosing from our interviews would be an organization that can provide programming or use of the building. Because right now, to run a facility like a recreation center, because that's kind of the vision of this building, would be a community recreation center. And there's many possibilities within that. The staffing levels that we have right now, that we couldn't take on a facility like that or provide the needs of the community. So also I will plug that Cedarwood has a survey out there as well. So we polled the community, and actually I'm completely impressed because we have, I think, 400 responses for their asking, do you want before and after school chat? You know, all of the different possibilities that we could accommodate in that space. Well, I won't say all, but we put forward, you know, a lot of possibilities and then also asked, you know, what did we miss? So people can write in of ideas that we didn't put out there to see really what does the community want and what do we need in this area for recreation and programming.
Thank you.
Have you had a lot of interest in the partnership?
So because it's an RFP process, I'll have more to share with you in the future, but yeah. All right, so then the second item is the water tower, and I think that you want to see pictures on that. So we have, this is the water tower. It's approximately 23 feet. You know, there was questions about what the lighting looked like on it, and I think there was some about the shape. It's kind of hard to see the scale of this, but we have taken possession of it. I think I shared at our last meeting. And it will be installed in April, but because of the weather, we had those freezing temperatures, we had to push out the concrete. So we are excited, all the last details together.
How wide is it?
The bottom of it is around 10 feet square.
And what's at the bottom of that? I can't make that out.
So actually the bottom of it, the base of it is really to kind of pay homage to the original water tower that had that house underneath it. So the roof line is like the house of the original water tower from the 20s. And then it has a base underneath it. It's really hard to get a picture of the entire thing at the same time. And then it has like you know, like a decorative square base.
It's beautiful.
That's nice.
Yeah. He did a great job. Excited to see it. So, and for Eagle Ridge, we had a little bit of an update, obviously, after the open house as well. So, but the community gardens are open for rental and the rules of the garden are being reviewed and changes have been made. The changes in part include a uniform set time of rental per year and updating the method you can rent as the city goes to that online format. We're doing Civic Rec online for all of our rentals, and it's a great program. And then also in the rules, we're outlining the expectations for garden use and then just setting rules for the shed as well. So events, recreation, and culture, we have a ton of events this year. So to report back, I guess, on the success of the RFP process we used in the last several years for events. A lot of those events are returning. So we're having great success. We're booked and things are really starting to come alive. This building has been rented a lot more through this year as well. So we have the Great Egg Hunt, which is a new event that's going to be on Saturday, April 8th at North Cove down here. Lake Stevens Farmers Market, of course, is returning. It'll be on Wednesdays as it was last time, June 7th through the first opening day is June 7th, and then it'll run through the end of August. And then Lake Stevens Health and Wellness Festival will take place on June 25th again, right here in North Cove. And that is my parks update for you.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions or comments for Jill?
How's the garden? Is it filling up again pretty quick or?
The community garden? Yeah, you know, we've had great luck with that in the past. Part of that, what I was sharing is we're revamping the system of it because everybody's bed kind of went from 1 year from the rental date, but we found that it's hard to manage. And so we've gone to everybody expires on the same date. And then, you know, if you want to re-up, just let us know 30 days ahead of time. So I don't have an answer because a lot of them haven't, so we don't know if they're re-upping yet or not, but we will soon.
But they've filled it up the
Yes.
last 5 or 6 years.
I don't know that we've rented at capacity, but the ones that aren't used have been used.
Community.
It looked like, looking at their records currently, there might have been about 8 beds that were open and available for rentals. And because they weren't rented by somebody, those ones were taken over for other donations. One of the things
Excuse me, who plants that for the community? Then is it the people that run the garden up there? I mean, with the vacant lots, who fills it up to plant stuff for the community?
So I'll say that this has not been actively managed by administrative staff. And we do have one specific person who the city has been in contact with continually over the past few years, who has acted as what we are now calling a garden liaison.
Was that the-
she
was that
has-
The one that was here that.
No.
Okay.
We have a sign in the park for an adopt a park person. That is the person that is the garden liaison and has been coordinating with the city for a while. So she has made sure rules are followed, that the overall maintenance is taken care of. The garden beds have been tended and she's planted them as well as other volunteers and then donated to the food bank. Moving forward, we're enforcing that all volunteers have to be official city volunteers. We have a policy in place for city volunteers. It's just something that hasn't continually been managed at that location. So now that we have that Parks and Recreation side, we're really going to make sure that we have refreshed our rules and that they're all followed.
Good.
So I asked on today, we don't have a prior like 8.5 by 11 poster to advertise the garden. So she's going to be making a new one. We'll be making sure that that gets posted on the fence itself. And if somebody else created one, we can forward an old version to Dawn, but she didn't have one readily available.
It's on the website.
Yeah, so we're gonna really build out our webpage. We're redoing the entire website currently. We're working on creating a Parks and Recreation Facebook page and other social media pages, but we have to update city policies first. So I think all of those things will help better advertise to the public what is available. As I don't know that there's been a huge push for people
So
to know.
on the property itself, is there room to enlarge it if it, gets so popular that, or is it pretty much, this is it, that's what it is?
Currently, as far as the master plan goes, we will not be
Expand.
increasing or expanding that until a lot of other priorities
Okay.
are had. I would say that if it continually gets fully rented to the max and we have a continual wait list, that's when, for me, it would be a larger priority to bring back to the table and see how that gets funded and what in what order. But currently, we're not
Okay.
close to that.
But is there space there?
A little bit, but not much. Very little.
Anyone else? Okay. Eagle Ridge, Jill and Sarah.
Yes, got a priority.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped that. Why don't we, because we're gonna be doing a exercise with prioritizing, right? So why don't we go ahead and do Eagle Ridge? Right, and talk about that, and then we'll do our exercise.
So, as you know, on February 8th, the city held the open house for the master plan of Eagle Ridge. We pulled it out, dusted it off and kind of got some great feedback. I was impressed by the amount of people that made it to the meeting. We had a pretty big public presence, so we're always excited for that. Of course, that meeting was recorded and you can go back and watch it if you need a refresh, but I took notes and then also went back and read the tape and then also left the comment period open for people to email in. So I just wanted to get back to the park board and let you know the comments that were made and then kind of our staff response to those. So I won't bore you and go through the entire list, but if anybody had any questions about that or in the staff responses, we are I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's basically is just an update to let you know that that was the completion. That was all of the comments that we received. So our next steps on that right now are to do a critical areas reconnaissance for the site, and that will help us know what our buffers are out there, and then we'll start the environmental process of NEPA through the National Park System Service.
So has anything changed with all the surveys that people, when the people came here? I mean, is it change the design at all, or are you thinking about changing the design?
I don't think the major elements of the design and also just for those that may or may not know, this site is, we've received a grant from LWCF or RCO. So a lot of those elements cannot change. We've said we're gonna put in a playground, we said we're gonna do an outdoor classroom. So, but definitely, the things that we heard from the public were increased lighting, increased interpretive signage. So those types of things are easily incorporated, into a plan, barring some, we don't have electricity on the site, but, and so all of those comments are that, and you'll see here the comment that was made, and then also the response to those comments. And so, but I didn't know if anybody had anything else to add or any questions.
Did everybody have a moment to read the notes there?
So as we move through into our planning, design and engineering, we'll bring that back to the park board at that time. But this kind of concludes the beginning public involvement process so that you have to have a jumping off point. So at this point, we know the concept plan, what changes need to be made to that plan. And then also, that this is going to be the footprint, basically, so we can get our environmental information back.
Thank you, Jill.
You bet.
All right, Sarah, we are ready now for the priority list.
And the quiz.
Happy to. So at your last meeting, the Parks Board requested after Sarah presented our plan for our capital project priorities. It was asked by the board to bring back to have input on the priority list. And we know there's a lot of moving parts when we're prioritizing capital projects and a lot of funds that are dependent and different sources of funds. And so I've blown up Sarah's plan for capital project list. And here on the left, and then on the right, it's the same list of projects. And with your Post-it notes, I put 3, so you can put your top 3, and then prioritize by placing this in the box to the right of all of the projects. And then we'll take that and rank them and then get them back to you.
So just to clarify, are we writing 1, 2, 3 on our first?
You are welcome to do that. Otherwise, it would be kind of like a scattergram. So
Yes.
it would be, if we see clusters in certain areas,
Right.
But you are absolutely welcome to write first, second, and third on there.
I think that would be helpful. What is?
It's good information for us to know what the park board's prioritization of projects are. Of course, knowing that
There's a lot of
other things
yeah.
that will.
There's constraints out there.
There's
that-
constraints out there.
Mhm.
And then, but it's good, if there's a tiebreaker or if, the city council says, I can't decide between these two, what does the park board need? We'll have that information.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want to, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, especially if there becomes a funding tie, if for some
Right,
reason
right.
actual construction costs came in at a lot higher than it is expected, that might be a good real example of what we're calling a tiebreaker, right? If we have 2 projects at bid, you can't do both due to funds. Now what do we do? And then we would have that information in order to proceed. So do you want to just establish everybody's going to do 1, 2, and 3 on each?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that way everyone's following the same rules. Does everybody have a pen? If you don't have one, I have an extra one. I can take out an extra one too.
Natalie put a basket of pens on that table right there. If anybody needs one, I'm happy to grab you one and.
All right. And so then we can individually get up and place your rankings on the board to the right.
You can all go at the same time?
Yes, you can have a free for all. Okay, go ahead.
So what page is the board on the right?
The pink
So-
Post-its. These ones, I put 3 of them.
At the bottom.
Oh, no, up here on the big one.
Yeah.
On the right side.
Correct. Mhm.
So do
Yeah.
you see
So I'll
Carl?
show you.
Yeah.
They're very light. Well, I don't.
So if you wanted to prioritize Sunset Beach, then you would put your first priority on Sunset Beach there. That makes sense.
Okay, so we don't have to copy this in here.
No, that's just the exercise, because I'm gonna, we'll take pictures of this, but I'm gonna take this with me, and then I will let you know what the result.
Is this,
Yeah.
Jill, is this the same, in the same order as that?
Yes, so this is the plan that was presented, and then this is in the same order.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we can look at this.
it's kind of like the dot test, except the.
Yeah, it's a good way to gauge information and priorities.
If,
Um,
if any of you are not sure what these projects mean by reading the title, you're welcome to ask those questions to make sure you know what you're voting on. And then to clarify the Sunset one, Sunset Beach full build, that's everything that you saw in that concept design as approved. The new dock and pier at Sunset is a different project. It wasn't within the scope of that.
mm,
So that's why they're broken out here,
oh,
just to help you guys there.
What's the?
But the way this shows is that the way it's ordered is the things that are farthest along are already at the top.
So to clarify, this capital project list was brought forward at the last meeting because we had a question from the Parks Board that they wanted to see what the capital projects were from the department. This is a grid that has been created by the department and is working with engineering on to say, in reality, this is our timeline for having these happen. After we gave this out at the last meeting, the Parks Board said, we want to go through and prioritize these. And so that's why we're back here for you guys to be able to do it. Because these are projects that you're looking at in the next 1 to 3 years, really 1 to 2 years, you may not be able to have much influence in how they move. But this exercise will allow us to talk about tiebreakers if push come to shove after we get construction, or if we have to make a decision with staff time. We'll definitely be doing prioritization as we look at our 1 to 5 year plans and as we start establishing all of those. But that's why you're seeing the grid as you do right now.
can I ask for clarification on something? So let's say I look at Frontier Heights Phase 2. And it looks like we have it takes a long time to get design out. And then, we have 2 quarters to get permitting. Is this what we're allotting, or is this what it really takes? So, do you know what I'm saying? Because if it takes that much time, it's going to have to be at the end of the list because we need that time.
Right, so permitting on each one of these projects is different because anything with the water has a different permitting system. Anything with critical areas has a different permitting. Frontier Heights in particular we can't do anything on that project until we're in grant contract, and we will not be in grant contract until July of 23. If everything goes really, really, really well. So if anything hiccups along the way with the budget for it's in the legislature right now. So pending the outcome of the legislature, once they have an approved budget, then we'll know how many projects they're going to be able to fund. So there's
These are part of the constraints that we were talking about that we see on here, but this gives them an opportunity to know what we're thinking. Does that make sense? Even though there are constraints, it's probably a good thing for them to know where we would like to prioritize things. So
The other thing this doesn't do is show the overlapping periods. There was no way in a simple form to show you that permitting can occur while we're getting bids. So there's many moving parts, things that can make this speed up, things that can make it slow down. But don't be afraid if Frontier Heights is your #1 priority, or if it is Cedarwood, or if it's Eagle Ridge all the way here at the bottom. It's okay for that to be your #1 priority. It doesn't mean that the other projects are going to come to a full halt. They will still happen. So truly just think about what are your priorities when you go up and fill this out. Don't focus too much on this timeline.
Well. I know, I know. Well, we're.
To be done. Almost nothing to be done. It's like they've done.
Got some sticky notes in my car. and I'll put some extra in that.
So the ball field is not the same as the dog. Building the dog, it's just a massive trailer, right? It is all of it. Okay. Phase one and the. Okay. Brian,
Yeah, I would, don't worry about the time frame. I think it's more just to show our progress. It's like. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now that you're done with your stickers. Okay, so they're a little bit light. I apologize for that. And the other thing you'll notice about these in electronic format. Some of these might say drag and drop into the priority order. Instead, use one as your top priority, going down, just going from there. We did have a lot of requests at the playground meeting to hand these out. Oh, I am short one. I will get copies. I will go print one and I will bring it back. So we had a lot of requests to give out paper copies of these to mail them out, to go and hand them out. Well, what happens then is when they come back to us, we have to have a staff member sitting there and entering every single one of them. And then if somebody enters it incorrectly, that can be another thing. So yes, we can use that. We are offering paper surveys, but we're really pushing electronic means to everybody else. If you want to do this, you can survey. No. Do you mind if I just
always come by tomorrow and get it, for them just. No, I'm happy to run over and over.
I know how these just all get into on my schedule personally too. There's one.
Is it on the keyboard, Sarah? Yeah. Nobody knows my college. Oh, Tina, sitting there. Now you. I am trying. You want to do that? I think I can print it from mine, so let's just see. So really, it's just simply is other. What's the information? So we know that. Let's just make sure this is the right one. No. I'm doing that, and I'll try to forget that.
grandparents and grandkids.
I thought we were gonna talk about all the other things that were complained about.
Yes.
Okay, while everybody is filling that out, I'm gonna go ahead and call board reports. Roger, do you have anything to report? Okay, Carl, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, on the Arts and Parks Foundation, we're working on a historical type sign. We started off with Sunset Beach, but couldn't find much. So we moved over to Lundin, which was easier to do, but we're having a heck of a time finding extra. We located some, and then some of the history, working with the museum, they don't have much either, but we are making progress, slow but sure.
Thank you. Marlene? Okay. Colton
Nothing for me, thank you.
and Susan?
Nothing for me at this time.
Don? Brian? Marie? I have one thing. Is the War Memorial Parks thing? So I know you're well aware of how it's not in good condition, right?
What specifically are you referring to?
The cracks in the walls.
Yes, so we have looked at that specifically. There was concern at first that that is a stained concrete. And thus you can't just paint over it. Now, in talking to Vern from who lowers and raises our flags, he believes that it was painted. And so we're trying to hunt down the matching paint color. What we're afraid of is we can't just touch the one piece. You have to do all of it. And then you have the medallions. And so it is something that's on a list. It just hasn't been able to yet be a priority. But we have been talking to him about that location.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to close the meeting. And then you can keep working on your questionnaires afterwards. So is there a motion? Like,
A motion.
I'll second.
all right, it's been moved, motion and moved to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So meeting is adjourned.